It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can get a hold of me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com if you just shoot me an email for Opperman Investigations. Our guest tonight is Anthony Andrews. You can find him on Substack, Anthony, the number 7, Andrews. So Anthony 7 Andrews at Substack. Now he's at a war with everybody at Twitter over there. This guy's what is that saying? The guy's he's in a bunker, man. He's got his back to the wall and he's taking on everybody on Twitter. So they keep shooting down his Twitter accounts. So it's a little tricky. It's Anthon, Anthon, then the 7, then the Y, then Andrews. So basically, it's Anthony 7 Andrews, but the 7 is before the Y, and that's on Twitter. And if you go, and I said how we get people here first. Anthony Andrews is the first guy that I saw, and once I saw him talking about Paulo Zampoli and Melania Trump and what was the other guy, Epstein, these connections. Once I see him talking about it, I look around to see if anybody else is talking about it. I'm telling, as far as I know, he's the first guy. So when I tag it the first to come on here, and it may not seem like the first, sometimes, because the show doesn't air until months later. But Anthony Andrews is one of those guys. Mr. Andrews, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, thank you so much, man. And thanks for coming on last second, too. I really appreciate that kind of thing. Remind the audience, though, who is Anthony Andrews?
Well, I am just a guy who wants to help people understand exactly what the heck is going on in this world right now. And I spent the last several years just finding ways to find information, reading reports, and actually finding ways to engage with some highly nefarious characters. And oftentimes they actually expose themselves directly to me. Over and over, that's happened with a number of people. We talked about Paulo Zampoli the last time, and, there's more updates on that we can talk about today, which, there's just so much going on. And then, we have another couple other things we want to talk about. But my goal is always just to share publicly verifiable, truthful information and remind people of a lot of stuff they may have seen in the past and forgot about, and see how it fits into the context of today. Because a lot of stuff that we saw years ago and may not even thought much of it, or it was a big deal back then, we forgot about. But when you actually go back and put it back into today's context with the information we have right now, it makes so much more sense than it ever did.
Maybe that's why I appreciate your work so much, because that's kind of the same thing I try and do. A historical aspect, interview firsthand people involved in historical events, and that perspective. Like, so many people are in a rush to like what was that, the thing there with the Charlie Kirk. Rush, to come up with theories and all that stuff like that. Let's take our time and, like you said, go back and look and have a fresh perspective on the stuff, recent history. Before we get into an update on Zampoli, because the first thing we talked about last time was your wars on Twitter, and I noticed you got a whole list of guys that have you blocked on Twitter. Okay, one day we have to compare one day, but give us an example of who has you blocked on Twitter, bro.
Well, I just reposted some of them today from when I had my big account, and Edward Snowden blocked me from Russia. I've got Roger Stone blocked me. He blocked me on my old account. He blocked me on Truth Social. I mean, how much of a PAB do you have to be afraid of somebody on Truth Social? And he blocked me again on my new account. Mike Flynn blocked me. Pretty much all the good ones. Even Alexander Dugin blocked me from Russia because he didn't like what I was saying. I was hoping I might have got a new block today. I'll check into it while we're talking, because I was giving him some crap today about some of the stuff he was posting. So Maria Butina, the convicted Russian spy, she blocked me after a while. But a handful of them actually talked to me a little bit before they blocked me. So, and the funny thing is they do have their spin, but what happens is their ego gets the best of them and they end up exposing themselves. Just like, Artem Klushin, he hasn't blocked me, but we have a theory. We don't know if Artem Klushin's around anymore. He's
really?
Gone. silent online for over a month now, which is extremely rare for him. So, yeah, lots of big guys have blocked me. Who else did I have? Even the former president of Russia. What was that guy's name? Dmitriev? No, I forget. He was prime minister too, but yeah, he even blocked me. So must be doing something right if these guys don't like what I'm saying.
I'm about to block you. All the cool kids got you blocked, man. Let's go. A memo went around about me right around the time that James O'Keefe blocked me. Suddenly, I just started noticing, hey, I'm not seeing a lot of people like Roger Stone and these people, and I'm even like Republican chairman of Florida and stuff like that. Kerry Lake, people I wasn't even talking about or on their radar, and were just suddenly blocked me all at once. It was like a memo went around,
Yeah, I've seen that a couple times with some of the blocks I've had. I've never even engaged.
Right.
Svetlana Makova, who was Mike Flynn's Russian honeypot that most people don't know about. She blocked me, and I hadn't even talked to her before she blocked me. So. Interesting times.
Did you ever see that picture from 2019 of Mike Flynn and Roger Stone with RFK Jr. from 2019? And they're looking like the cat that just swallowed the canary, and he's looking so uncomfortable, man.
I didn't see that picture. The one I use often is the one where it was Flynn, Stone, and RFK Jr. with a woman, and somebody else identified the woman, I'm sure.
That's the one. Yeah, it's from 2019, yeah.
And, and it leads us right into what we're talking about. I mean, RFK was, he's been part of the Trump operation since 2019. He was signed up to be on their Flynn's Reawaken America tour. And I think they decided with the operation to put him as a spoiler candidate and have him run, as a Democrat originally for president, and then eventually he, went independent or whatever he did as a spoiler candidate. But, there was even that tape of him talking with Rosie O'Donnell about,
right.
The bear he found in Connecticut and dropped it off in Central Park. And, even back then when that was posted, I was like, he's literally running for president, but he's hanging out with ultra MAGA Roseanne Barr, talking about stuff, and it just right then, it just told me, he's been part of the operation forever. And then, Timothy Mellon, who is, I know we weren't going to talk about this, but Timothy Mellon is the son of Paul Mellon, who is on flight logs from the original Epstein trial, and I posted that recently. And he actually is the one that gave $130 million to Trump to pay the military during the shutdown, which comes out to, just if you do the math, less than $100 per troop, by the way. But he also funded RFK Jr. to the tune of $5 million for his for his campaign. He also funded AOC and Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah. So, I mean, this is pretty clear what's going on here when you've got that guy funding all the people that have had questions about them throughout this entire saga,
Yeah, that guy Mellon, I think he works for Citibank or Chase or something like that, and he was part of an Epstein lawsuit. He was a defendant in an Epstein lawsuit.
Yeah, his dad owned a bank. I forget the name, BNC or something like that. And his dad was dealing with Epstein-associated lawsuits regarding his dad's involvement. And I think he just kind of took up the reins to protect his dad. And, he's one of the biggest donors in the campaign. And then, recently that $130 million, the bribe, follow the money. I doubt it went to the military, but, we all know what's going on there.
Yeah, it's not even legal to do that. You can't even do that. Donate money to pay the soldiers. But now you were saying today, you reposted a post that you made recently saying that you didn't believe that the Congress would be reconvened until after January, and that makes sense too.
Yeah, Mike Johnson just said today, I just saw when I got home from work, Mike Johnson said that we won't be reconvening until January. I posted something 4 days ago saying, there's no way they're going to do it. They do not want to seat that new congresswoman.
Yeah.
But the one thing people don't understand, to be honest with you, about the fact that, she is the 218th vote to release the Epstein files, but
Right.
it just isn't going to be magically released. There's still processes that they're going to fight that's not going to allow it to happen. And, the one thing I've been focusing on most recently is there is plenty of public information that paints the picture everybody needs to see. We don't need to see pictures of young children. We don't need to see pictures of videos of all these people doing these horrible things. We know they exist, but let's follow the money and look at the history that literally goes back 4 decades at least when it comes to Epstein.
Yeah, just had Craig Unger on the show, who wrote the book American Compromise and the other book called House of Putin, House of Trump. And he goes back to the early 80s of first the Russian mafia with Trump and then the Russian KGB with Trump. So then keep an eye on that. But now this other thing going on, though, with if they really do keep the Congress closed until January, because this food stamp situation, it's starting November 1st. It's going to be no food, no WIC, no SNAP, and no food stamps.
Now, I work in. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, because also too, they already cut $500 million that went from the farmers, the Department of Agriculture, that went directly to food banks. So even the food banks will have no food. So this is by design. They've been planning this food shortage, man, to start people out and cause riots.
Well, and that's exactly it. There's never been a shutdown in U.S. history where the SNAP program or food stamp program was actually also shut down. That was actually allowed to be paid, and there's no reason for that to not be paid now, except to cause more pain and suffering for Americans. And I work in grocery now. I just got a new job, and they've the word out there is they are terrified of the SNAP benefits because it's going to cause a lot of loss in the stores. It's probably going to cause a lot of animosity that's happening in the stores. Just general grocery stores. This is a big chain that I work for now. And everybody's just bracing for November 1st when nobody's got their food stamps or SNAP anymore. And, millions. And what I have seen on the other side of it, I do see people preparing for it. I've seen a number of people coming in buying stuff for food drives and other things like that. So there are some Americans who are actually trying to get ahead of this. I don't think enough. I think we all need to look at our neighbors, our neighborhood, our communities, and figure out what we can do to help these people, because we may not be able to do much, but that might be one can in your cupboard you're not using that somebody else could use to counter the effects of this shutdown and the lack of money that's going out there to these people.
Yeah. My Friday night show is about that. Because there will be supermarkets in certain neighborhoods where like 40% of the people who shop there shop with food stamps. Oh yeah, they're going to have to close down because there's going to be too much looting. But then also too, 7-Eleven survives in some neighborhoods. 7-Eleven they survive on EBT. That's the only that all day long. That's all that comes in. So those places are going to shut down too. And what if they're pumping gas? They're going to shut down. This is a huge. People have no idea what right around the corner too. And if this goes on till January, we're in big trouble.
Well, the same thing with different funding things as well. That if that the decisions were made earlier this year, but the repercussions aren't being felt to the next school year. For example, my sister works in the school system, and their health care went up 26%. And they actually had to fight because my sister told me all about it. Because she was upset the other day, and she called me and she says, they're trying to push this new healthcare onto us, which is not good for anybody. A lot of out-of-pocket money. They're not going to approve a lot of stuff. You're going to show up to the doctor thinking you're not going to have to pay anything. They're like, no, you have to pay it out of pocket and then talk to your insurance company. And she actually went to bat for her school, and they actually decided to keep their old program, which will just cost them 26% more. I mean, 26% more for her is $200 extra a month, she told me. So that's, everybody that's happening to. And open enrollment literally happening right now and going through December 7th. And a lot of people are going to have a lot of wake-up calls. So you combine that with food assistance and everything else. I mean, they're really trying to push people to the brink of survival now. But I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but that's, important stuff,
Yeah, I brought you on because I saw you posting some stuff about Manafort and Tulsi Gabbard. How do you want to attack all that? Oh, no, let's update on Paolo Zampoli first. Then we'll get into Manafort and Tulsi.
Sure. So with, Zampoli, we ended it, kind of at where he's at. He's running around the world right now making deals, back channel deals with, fascist countries, especially former Soviet countries. I look at his Facebook a lot. I look at his Instagram, and he's taking pictures, talking about deals he's making in Uzbekistan and a number of other Eastern European nations. And nobody's paying attention. We've got this guy that's literally a special envoy position that's running around doing backdoor deals. But most importantly, one of the things we had talked about before, he was married. Well, there's question about whether he was married to Amanda Ngura, but Amanda flew on Epstein's plane at 17. It's in the logs. I posted the log, the specific log that shows her name on it. She was 17 years old. Jean-Luc Brunel was on that flight as well, and a number of other people, and they were flying to, I think, Paris or Milan. And she was 17 then. That was back in the late 90s. And then Paulo and her got together in about 2008. They had a child, and about 10 years later, things went south for them. They broke up. They reconciled again for a little bit, probably till about a year ago. They broke up again. They've been in a big custody battle for their one son, Giovanni. And she got arrested in June in South Florida with another man from Brazil, because she's Brazilian. She got arrested in June for performing non-licensed cosmetic procedures in South Florida. I think we talked about that before.
We did, yeah.
She disappeared for 4 months. Apparently, once she got arrested, and I remember it was really hard to find even anything on her arrest. There were like 2 articles that were local news articles that I found on her. And then there was somebody on TikTok, and her name's Bree. I know anybody that's seen it knows who I'm talking about. And she started talking last week about Amanda being found. And apparently what happened is she, was arrested, jailed for the crime that she committed. Then somehow she was moved to an ICE facility and deported to Brazil. And now it's reported she's living in fear in Brazil. The son is still in the United States and now with Zampoli. And it's been said and assumed, just because of the fact that, how does that happen? Somebody goes to jail, ends up at ICE, and ends up in Brazil without anybody knowing it, that some levers were pulled from likely the White House, if not other entities associated with Zampoli that are connected to be able to do that. So there's a convenient way for him to get rid of that custody battle and gain control of his son and send her back. And, I think the other part of that is I think she knows a lot of inside information since she flew on the plane at 17, and she's been part of it since then, So it's just silencing her. And, so I think, again, this is stuff nobody's covering. I mean,
I was just going to say that. How could you not follow Anthony Andrews? Anthony 7 Andrews on Substack, and Anthon 7E Andrews on Twitter. I think if you just put in Anthony Andrews on Twitter, you'll find him. There can't be too many. Yeah. But no, I was just about to say, how could you not be following this guy? This is great stuff, man. This is killer stuff. So okay, now what Manafort, Tulsi, that whole Russian? How do you want to cover that?
Sure. Well, let me go back a little farther. You were talking about a lot of this starting in the 80s before we started the call, and some of the stuff you've seen. But I was telling a story last night, trying to kind of piece things together, trying to figure out a way to put everything in a digestible way. But this really goes back to almost the Prohibition era, the 30s, Bugsy Siegel, Meyer Lansky, Lucky Luciano. As things progressed with, Prohibition and all of that, when Prohibition ended, the Prohibition czar needed a new villain, and that villain was marijuana. And I had actually worked for a dispensary in Chicago back when it became recreational in 2020. And one of the things we learned was, dispensaries are owned by rich white dudes. Still are, they're trying to do something different, but still rich white guys own the primary dispensary legal marijuana business in the United States. But the Prohibition czar needed a new villain, so he made marijuana his villain. And they actually had posters where they had dirty Mexicans on the poster bringing their devil's lettuce up to the United States. These are literally legit posters that you could probably find online, demonizing marijuana, which has made it what it, the stigma that it has to this day. But as things progress, and that's what really made the mob, the various different mobs. And what I learned as I was studying a lot of this, there was a lot of borders with the different mobs and mafia. Of course, a lot of people know neighborhoods and stuff like that. But, you had Philadelphia, you had, New York, New Jersey, West Coast, Las Vegas. Well, once gambling became prominent, starting about in the 50s, Meyer Lansky, who was friends with Fred Trump, actually oversaw all the gambling operations, both in the Caribbean, Cuba, and in the United States, across the United States, all the illegal gambling operations. And when Castro took over Cuba in the late 50s, the CIA approached Meyer Lansky, and this goes to something you had mentioned about JFK files that Russia had released.
Right.
Well, there's a file I found a few weeks ago that was part of the JFK release a couple of years ago or last year on files that came out. And it was a 3-page thing where the CIA had approached Meyer Lansky in an attempt to find a way to assassinate Castro. So the CIA was trying to partner with the mob to assassinate Castro, primarily because they knew Meyer Lansky's interest in Cuba had to do with gambling, and Castro was against gambling. Obviously, the plans fell through, but there is a document. It actually names a few other known names from the time. It's really interesting to see how that's connected, and it was in the JFK files that were released. So as you progress into the 60s and 70s, the 60s had a whole lot going on in the United States with, the civil unrest, civil rights, equal rights, all of the different things that were going on. And with the assassination of, both Kennedys and all of that. And as you approach the 70s, we enter Nixon, White House, and Watergate. And what I found was in 76, the CIA was unable to conduct covert operations because they had a microscope on them because of Nixon and the Watergate scandal and everything going on there. So my mind's trying to work. But Ehud, no, not Ehud Barak.
I know, but Robert Mayhew.
Pardon me?
Robert Mayhew?
No, he was a prime minister of Israel that was connected with Epstein. Yeah, Ehud Barak, right?
Yeah, Barak, yeah.
Oh, no. So, but I'm talking about, sorry about that, Adnan Khashoggi. Khashoggi in 1976 helped fund a group called the Safari Club.
Right.
And this was supported by the U.S. and Israel, but they weren't directly involved. A number of other countries were involved, including Iran and some Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia and Syria, and a couple of the other countries that are highly important to what we're dealing with now. And they created a covert operation that was primarily focused on Africa, African influence and influencing the countries in Africa. And that's when I believe Epstein became a intelligence asset. And one of the things I talked about recently is that how Epstein actually, one of the reasons he's untouchable is he was never a committed intelligent asset to one particular intelligence. He was a covert one that worked in this group that did different things for different countries. And the ultimate goal for the Safari Club was to do covert actions that the CIA couldn't do at that time. So different operations, and it allowed the CIA and other countries to have plausible deniability, because it was this weird group that was created to do all of these things. So we know in the early 80s, Adnan Khashoggi was a client of Epstein's company at the time when he left Bear Stearns, and that was when Adnan Khashoggi was doing weapons sales for the Iran-Contra affair. And Epstein was his money guy during that time. So a lot of this stuff, and there's so much more that I could fill in that I found out about this stuff, but a lot of the stuff leads up to, through the Reagan era, and that's when Manafort, Stone, and Black had their own company that was, a consulting company that helped Reagan in the 80s when he ascended into office and did a lot of things for Reagan. We know.
Wait. With Liebengood. Liebengood was a partner over at Manafort Stone. Liebengood was you know who Liebengood was?
No.
He was the sergeant at arms, in the Congress there, and he was the father of Howie Liebengood, who committed suicide the day after January 6th.
Oh my goodness. I love all these connections, because it's exactly what we talked about at the beginning of this. When you go back to history, it actually just shows you how this all came together.
Well, Adnan Khashoggi had his own island too, and he was that way back in the coke smuggling days. And I'm sure he was, yeah. And he could land his plane there, and it took like 2 hours for customs to come and check the plane. So,
how convenient.
Sometimes I think it was like 6 hours, or the next day customs would come by to check.
Mm-hmm. We didn't bring anything.
We don't have any luggage at all. We don't have any.
But even Richard Branson had his own island down there too.
Yeah. Well, even what's his name? Geraldo Rivera had an island. David Copperfield had an island, and it's a pattern, Yeah,
well, and Copperfield is in those handwritten message notes that were released. Copperfield's on that. I don't understand why he hasn't gotten any scrutiny at all. Same thing.
Oh no, he had a couple. He had a couple of cases. There was a young girl he lured to his island. He tried to drown her. And when she had filed criminal charges against him, then she was in Vegas. She lived in Vegas, and she was in Vegas, and she went on a date with some guy. He took her up to the room, tried to rape her, and she came running out of there screaming, this guy tried to rape me. So in the ambulance, she says, "I can't believe this happened to me again." So then they tried to pin it on her, saying, "Oh, she's a prostitute and she's doing this. She's blackmailing these guys." No way, man. You know what I mean? She was totally set up, this chick. There's another case against Copperfield I can't talk about, but it was beyond the statute of limitations. We couldn't pursue it. But Copperfield is, and he got married to his chick on. He met either he got married on Epstein's Island or he met her on Epstein's Island. A lot of guys dancing between the raindrops. That guy.
So, so getting back to Manafort, though, when we hit the early 2000s, Manafort was involved in the Ukraine elections. He was hired by Oleg Deripaska, and he actually worked for a number of oligarchs. And, a lot of people don't understand this, but, he was literally basically a Russian asset. He was taking millions from Russia, and his job in Ukraine was to support the Russian backed candidate, which was is it Yanukovych is the name, or was it the other guy? I get the names mixed up, but
he was supporting those names.
Yeah, he was supporting the Russian-backed candidate, and was and this is where it gets very connected to what we're seeing now. He was tasked with cleaning up his image, to the Ukrainian people, which we've seen with Trump, through Apprentice and also other things. He did the same thing for the Marcoses, Imelda and Fernando in the Philippines. He did the same thing for a couple African, I don't know if they were warlords or presidents, but Manafort's job literally is to go around the world. And, right now, we'll get to now, but I think the ones that are most quiet now are the ones we should worry the most about.
Yeah, that's right. Where is Manafort now? What's he up to?
Yeah, he is he's doing the same thing. He's running around trying to rebuild his image. But, when we go back, let me get back to where we were back in Ukraine.
Well, no, real quick, though, before that, Manafort, the charges he got arrested for, some of that stuff he was doing in partnership with Podestas. And they weren't even touched and not even questioned.
Yeah. It's just it's insane the stuff that they were getting away with. But I've always been a big believer. All these people have been deemed assets of some sort, which gives them some level of protection, and their connections have allowed them. I think that's the biggest thing with Epstein. He had done so many different things, and not just the child trafficking and all of that. It's the money laundering. I mean, his main business probably was money laundering more than anything. And then
I totally agree. I think that it's totally over the whole blackmail stuff. I think it's totally overblown.
Yeah. And that's why they like to focus on it, because as long as they're focusing on blackmail, we're not focusing on all the other stuff that Epstein done. And I had posted something about a week ago that I came across, and again, it's all out there. You just have to kind of know where to look and find it. And before the Bernie Madoff scandal, which was the largest pyramid scheme scandal, ever. The largest one in the world prior to that was
Tower Financial,
and Epstein was the center of that, and even everybody was convicted except Epstein, and everybody that was convicted said Epstein was the one actually running the show.
Oh, yeah, dude, Anthony, you got to check out my shows with Stephen Hoffenberg. I interviewed who is the president of Tower Financial, who's the guy holding the bag who went to prison, just like you said, and Darren Endyke, Richard Kahn, and Rudy Giuliani, who was their corporate counsel for $1 million a year, and Epstein, all skated. $400 million disappears from Tower and shows up in a Southern Trust in U.S. Virgin Islands. Yeah. I became very good friends with Stephen Hoffenberg. We did like 13, 14 shows together. He's passed away now, but you got to check out those shows. It was gold.
Yeah, definitely. It's just crazy how much is out there to be found, you know, and everybody's talking about, release these files. The files aren't going to do anything for us. We don't need to see tapes. Nobody wants to see any of that horrible stuff that's happened. If it's there, we should be told that this is what these people did, and they should be held accountable. And unlike the other side of this, I don't give a shit. Excuse my language. I don't care who was involved. If it was Bill Clinton, lock him up. Anybody else, lock them up. I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. This is not politics. None of this is politics anymore, though.
Yeah, the Epstein story is totally controlled by the Epstein people. Yeah. And even the alt media people, you think they are heroes and stuff. Some of those people have tried to hire me to dig up dirt on Hoffenberg. It was one of them. They tried to get me to hire him to dig up dirt on Hoffenberg and one of the Epstein victims, too. So, there's no good guys in all this, man. The guys you think that are out there, whistleblowing and telling the truth, man, it's all a big, they're all involved.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and I think they just know how to walk the line. You look at Lev Parnas, you look at Michael Cohen. I said before, Michael Cohen and Lev could take Trump down in an instant if they just told us the truth. Yeah, they know.
Well, Lev, I had Lev on the show, man, and he talked about his plane trip to I think it was Vienna, to get a Hunter Biden laptop. And he had Rudy Giuliani was supposed to be on the plane with him, and Sean Hannity was on the plane. And they were going to pick up another laptop that was being produced by the Russian FSU. And he told it on my show. Then when he does his To Russia with Lev, he doesn't tell that story. He tells a different story.
Exactly. It's all a balance act for them.
Yeah.
Sure
I love Lev, though. I
love
love Lev.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Manafort, when you look at what he did in Ukraine, it was almost a practice run for what happened in the United States in 2016. The female candidates, when the Russian-backed candidate won, his female opponent, they actually did jail. And, just like they wanted to jail Hillary, and the misinformation machine was out there. Artem Klushin, who I've written extensively about, who is 100% a smoking gun in all of this Russian stuff. I mean, I've literally talked to Artem multiple times because his ego gets the best of him. And I own property in his brain now. Anytime I talk crap about his looks, he'll post a new video online, even though he doesn't engage me anymore. But he pretty much is back in the Ukraine operation. He was a big part of the misinformation through social media, and again, it was a practice run for what we dealt with in 2015-16 to now.
Yeah, and that internet research group that was supporting Trump. That was run by that guy. I forget his name. Probably
the chef, yeah, Yevgeny Prigozhin.
There you go, man. Right, the Wagner Group.
Putin chef. Yep.
Yeah.
And Wagner Group. He ran the IRA. He ran Wagner Group, which is heavily involved in Africa. And Africa is something that we haven't paid much attention to, but Russia has been really spending a lot of time really trying to counter democratic efforts in Africa, and eventually we'll have to deal with that. But getting back to Manafort, so he was doing that. He owed millions to oligarchs. They said as much as $100 million when he became Trump's campaign manager. $100 million owed to Russia, and he worked for free for Trump. We all know this. We've heard the story, But he went and there in the volume 5, it talks about how Manafort talked to Konstantin Kilimnik, who he was passing polling information to from the RNC. To Oleg Deripaska, which I think was being fed into the IRA stuff to help them fine-tune where their efforts were going. Because when you read those IRA indictments and you read more about it, their efforts were going really to specific groups. They were really pinpointing groups throughout the United States. One of those groups was African Americans.
What is the IRA? What is that? What are you talking about?
Internet Research Agency.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. A lot of people think of the
Irish
United Kingdom. Yep. But the IRA was the Internet Research Agency by Russia, run by Prigozhin, and they were indicted. 13 people were indicted during the Trump administration. At the end of the Trump administration, they quietly dropped all the charges under a technicality, basically. They got rid of the charges.
I looked into that because those 13 guys were from Staten Island, and I was from Staten Island.
Oh, really?
So I looked into that, and you should see the freaking porn websites these guys were running out of Russia, man. It was some really seriously rape.com, or rape.ru, whatever. This was seriously horrific, like serial killer porn. That those guys were running.
That's just insane. And, a big part of that now that we're seeing is, a lot of that has evolved. I think what's happened was it's become nationalized. So we no longer have to worry about a Russian entity or however they're doing it because Trump has created that same system within the United States, and they're doing a lot of these operations using techniques that they had learned but that have evolved with the technology we have, including AI.
Right. So now Russia, Trump is doing this coup, this takeover, from what he's learned from Putin, or with Putin's guidance?
Oh, I'd say with Putin's guidance from the beginning. I think, when you get back to Tulsi, which, we want to talk about, a lot of people don't realize, she was the vice chair of the DNC in 2015, 2016, when the DNC was hacked by Russia. I mean, that in itself, looking at what we know now, should be, mind-boggling to people. She stepped out of being DNC chair. She resigned from that, the vice chair position, to support Bernie Sanders' run, which, again, I've talked a lot about Bernie Sanders, and it's not a popular subject because too many people still like Bernie Sanders, but Bernie is no bueno. Bernie is not doing anything good for any of us. He can sometimes say the right things, and he's out there with AOC. But again, AOC is another bag of worms to talk about. But, just Tulsi's connection. She was part of his Sanders. She was on the board of the Sanders Foundation. You know who else is currently on the board of on the fellowship of Sanders Foundation is Cornel West, who was another presidential spoiler. I mean, it all is very easy to see when you just look a little bit. Ted Devine.
I actually sat on the press bus right next to Cornel West for a whole day in Vegas. The whole day. He's a nice guy. He's a very, very entertaining fellow,
Well, you have to be charismatic to be able to run for president, And go ahead.
No, the presidential run was ridiculous, and it didn't have a chance. It's just, you're right. It's one of those split the vote type deals.
Well, and Roger Stone is known. For being for supporting third party candidates. He's done it for decades. And
Reverend Al Sharpton in New York.
Yeah. And Konstantin Rykov, who was in cahoots with Artem Klushin and Maria Katasanova, dealing with the U.S. election and France election primarily, and part of Brexit. I've researched all of this. I looked at their Facebook pages. I mean, they have all of this out there. That's why I say nothing needs to be released. It's all out there. You just need to understand it. But Konstantin Rykov had posted on his Facebook a couple of years ago how it was Trump's idea. I had to translate it from his Facebook, but basically it said it was Trump's idea to have Kanye West run as a spoiler.
Huh.
So you've got, a Russian agent who's been involved in this since the get-go, talking exactly about what we've seen happen. It all just makes so much sense when you look at it. You don't have to think about conspiracy or anything, because these are things that are coming out of these people's mouths directly that have been involved in all of this. And Manafort, being connected to Stone, back in the 80s when Trump owned the yacht, the Trump Princess, he had Manafort, Stone, Black, and Kelly, I think is the other name that was in that group at the time. They actually took a process that was supposed to take 3 years in getting Trump to be able to park his yacht in Manhattan or something like that, down to a 2-month thing. So I can only imagine the bribes and the levers that were pulled by Manafort and Stone and them back then to make that happen. And
by the way, that he bought that boat from Khashoggi.
Yeah, he bought it from Khashoggi, and he sold it.
Ann Coulter used Geraldo Rivera and Coulter all used to party on that freaking boat.
Well, that was the boat from was it Octopussy?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, from James Bond. Yeah.
James Bond, Dr. We live in a crazy, crazy world. So he ended up selling it. He was bailed out. He got bailed out by Khashoggi. It wasn't Khashoggi. A Saudi, one of the Saudi princes, bailed him out a couple times for the Plaza Hotel. When he needed money, and bailed him out for his yacht. They bought his yacht from him. That was in the mid-'90s, early to mid-'90s. Same thing with Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert. He died off of his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine. And that was a week after he was outed as a Mossad double agent for the KGB at the time. Yeah. And he died.
There's a photo of Trump on his boat with Robert Maxwell.
Yeah, I think I've seen that recently.
Yeah, I forget who else was on. I think a CBS, the guy who owns CBS or something. It was a big media guy was on there, and somebody else too, a CBS reporter. I think it might have been like a Morley Safe or something like that.
Yeah, I remember. Like, like
Yeah.
almost Dan Rather, somebody that recognizable. I remember seeing that. So
Unbelievable.
So, Manafort, he came onto the campaign, one of the things that's in the reports is he asked Kalimnik if he could get hold by being part of the campaign. And then when he left the campaign because they wanted to hush all that stuff about his Russian connections. But, even in December of 2016, it was the beginning of December, he got a loan out of Chicago, from that bank in Chicago, in an effort to help the person that got him the loan get a position in Trump's administration. But this was long after he left the Trump campaign. So it's obvious he was still very, very much involved in the levers that were being pulled there. If he could get somebody to give him millions of dollars with an attempt at getting a position in the campaign still, even in December that year.
Yeah, by the way, it's Mike Wallace that's on the plane there with on the boat.
Mike Wallace.
Mike Wallace, yeah. And another guy named Steve Ross. And I looked into this guy. He was a real shady guy. They call him a cable news executive. But I remember this guy was like involved in some kind of one shady thing after another. This guy, I looked into him. Well, surprise, a shady thing around Trump.
Exactly. Well, and with Tulsi, if you look at her history, she had been anti-LGBTQ from the get-go. She had been, anti this, anti that. She just seems to be an opportunist based off of where she can get the power. And I think the big part of that was what helped her, run as a Democrat in Hawaii, even though, her values didn't necessarily align with the Democratic Party. She had some things that did, but if anything, she was probably more of a libertarian than a Democrat. And, don't get me started on libertarian a-holes.
True.
And we see, and then Tulsi, during the Biden administration, she was on the terror watch list. How in the heck do we have the person in charge of our national intelligence, somebody who was on the terror watch list based off of her own actions? It was not politicized. It was not anything like that. She was traveling to weird places, doing weird things that the government finally said, enough is enough, and they put her on a terror watch list. Then Trump puts her in
Hillary
charge.
said she was a Russian agent, and if she was the vice chair of the DNC at that time, she would know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So, it's pretty clear that all of this, and then you go to what we were talking about, the financing from Timothy Mellon. I mean, it all comes full circle. It's all connected to Epstein. It's all connected to everything that Trump's been doing. It's a decades-long operation of people that have been involved in this from the get-go. Manafort, Stone, Bernie Sanders took his vacation or his honeymoon in the 80s in Russia. There's plenty of stuff.
By the way, too, John McCain was on a boat with those Russians too, with those oligarchs. Before his campaign.
Yeah. Oh.
So this was going on to McCain, Sarah Palin too.
Yep. And, and then you've got, I wrote the other day or earlier today, I think it was about, I've written it before, but, Kellyanne Conway, she was one of the only people that lasted almost through the entire first term with Trump that didn't leave. And she lived literally next door to Oleg Deripaska in Washington, D.C. That's awfully convenient for a president who likes to hand deliver messages to Putin like he did with Rand Paul.
Well, real quick, let me tell you a quick story, because on that day, remember on the Intrepid Museum, the debate was on, I think, October 19th of Trump against Hillary, and he brought in all those mistresses and the women that Clinton raped.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know everybody on that stage, okay? And I know the guy, Trump's head of security. I knew everybody in that room, okay? And I got a phone call that afternoon, and they want me to get them Trump's a guy right under Stone. Okay, I'll say that much.
Yeah.
But Trump's campaign wanted me to get them contact information for Kathy O'Brien, who wrote this book, Transformation in America. I had her on my show. She has this wild conspiracy theory, and she has allegations against Hillary Clinton too as well. They wanted her contact info. As I'm talking to this guy, this was the day right after the whole Access Hollywood stuff, and he goes, "Yeah, that effing Kellyanne Conway, we think she leaked the tape." And I said, the Access Hollywood tape? He goes, "Yeah, she's effing CIA." No, dude, man, I don't know if she is. She leaked the tape, if she's CIA, what she is, but that's what they were talking about in that room.
Oh, my goodness. I cannot believe that. And her grandfather, Jimmy the Brute Denali, was part of the Genovese mob. He was like an underboss for the Genovese mob. Again, full circle. Everything's connected. And, I looked up.
Well, I'm from New York, and many of the Genovese family are very fine people. I'm not going to say anything bad about the Genovese family on this show.
Well, yeah, I won't. I'm not saying anything bad either.
Yeah. I got to visit New York in a couple of weeks. I'm not talking about it. But what do you call it? Hey, how is Anthony Andrews going to write a book?
I need to. I just have to figure out how to put pen to paper because I've just got so much stuff going on. And, between the art inclusion stuff and all I have there, I mean, that in itself is enough. I could talk about the targeting that I've been targeted. Even that Allison Guerrero still keeps an eye on me. That's why Caputo still keeps coming after me because he's good friends with her, but she's best friends with Giuliani and Stone too. I mean, and I spent 2 months talking to her in DM on Twitter and she couldn't keep her lies straight. I mean, that's a book in itself. So I plan on it. I just have to put pen to paper and figure out how to put it in a digestible way.
And how about a podcast? Because you have a good storytelling ability. A little practice would be great.
Yeah, I'm working towards that. It's just a matter of time, finding time for it. But that is something that I really want to kind of work towards and be able to get a lot of my information back out there. I lost a lot when my account was nuked, but I have it all. I just need to represent it. So it'll come.
That's the thing that we're losing platforms, we're losing exposure. They control a lot, man.
Oh yeah.
But you always have a home here. You can, anytime you want to call me up and come on the show, just let me know. I'll put you right on the show.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh no, man, this is great stuff. Stuff.
I enjoy speaking with you.
What else? Now we only got like 2 minutes left. So what else in the background? What is Anthony Andrews secretly working on? I mean, just whisper it to me, Anthony.
I am trying to really put together the Epstein story. There's a lot of information out there. The birthday book is chock full of stuff people don't realize. I mean, there is so much stuff in that birthday book, and I've written a few things about it, just doing some investigating. But that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to show everybody the full picture, not just all the bombastic stuff. Just like with the Steele dossier, everybody focuses on the PP tape. Steele dossier has so much credible stuff in it that if people realize,
the Steele dossier says that Trump had access to people with the porn traffic. They could redirect porn traffic to shut down websites.
Really?
And oh yeah, and I think that was the IRA, like you said.
Yeah.
And so I think it was. And do you know that the week of the Katie Johnson, she was doing a press conference with Lisa Bloom. It was the November of 2016, a week before the election, and their website was taken down by a dedicated denial of service attack on the Lisa Bloom website and on the live stream website. Were both taken down by a huge internet attack, and that's what caused everybody to panic and drop that lawsuit. And later that week, Sean Hannity, I just happened to be listening to the radio, and Sean Hannity goes, "We dodged a bullet this week." And he goes, "What do you mean?" Epstein. Okay.
Yeah.
And like you said, man, Lev knows more, man, and Michael Cohen knows more. So
and you know who else knows more?
Okay, who?
And you know who else is probably one of the main reasons they are not willing to release the Epstein stuff? Because everybody knows Trump's in it, and everybody knows Trump probably did all the things we think he did. Yeah. Melania.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and 100%. Yeah.
She knew Zampoli before she met Trump. She knew Epstein before she met Trump. that in itself should raise eyebrows. All I'll end with is Melania had about 5 years that really aren't well accounted for. I've written about it a little bit, so you can search my feed on X and Twitter, but it's still unknown. I found a little bit about what was going on during that time, but I don't want to put too much out there until I have kind of solid evidence. But Melania has some missing years that really brings into question what her true.
Well, Anthony, don't worry, because Michael Wolff is suing Melania,
yeah.
and the Washington Generals are going to be playing against the Globetrotters that same night. Michael Wolff, who was friends with Bannon, friends with Epstein, all these guys, he's gonna solve it. Don't worry, man. He's on the case. When I had Craig Unger on, I was asking him about it. He goes, "Oh yeah, well, Michael Wolff he was connected with Vanity Fair too. Epstein was all over Vanity Fair." Anthony Andrews, you find this guy on Twitter. No, you find him on his Substack. Okay, Anthony, the number 7, Anthony 7 Andrews. Then on Twitter, first try Anthony Andrews, see if it comes up. But you want to find the one that says Anthon 7. Then Y, then Andrews. He moved the 7 over one notch over on Twitter. Anthony, thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Great stuff.